My name's J.O. I'm the author of Maximize Your Medicare. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm also an education fellow at the Alliance for Lifetime Income, which is basically a think tank used to educate advisors and the public on the function of annuities in a retirement plan. Every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, I go live, unscripted, on the current topics that are on my mind that relate to financial anything. Reality is, I spent time on 3 continents in the complicated area of financial markets everywhere. Medicare is super important. You can see the channel, hundreds of videos. You can see Jay's Corner. Today's excerpts are from this morning's broadcast where I talked about March 31st. Every broadcast, I mention healthcare cost planning. It's a vital important to financial planning. It's even more vital for retirement planning. Here are my few moments. Hope you enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe not only here, but also to Jay's Corner, the YouTube channel, as well as the free newsletter. The URL is in the text below, as well as in print underneath the book cover here on the video. Hope you enjoy. For Medicare people, Medicare beneficiaries, there's Medicare Advantage versus Medigap. And then within Medigap, this is Plan G versus Plan N is where the debate centers. There are tons of videos online comparing the two. What has not changed from my book from the time that the first edition came out over a decade ago is the logic, the way that you think through. And everything here is going to be consistent because my reasoning here on the things that you have to consider, those ideas don't change. What changes is the price, of course, and then in addition to that is how you would think about it. So for newcomers, this is brand new. For people who are already on Medigap, rest assured I have not changed course in my explanation to you because the principles of understanding haven't changed. That is the consistency amongst all of the editions of Maximize Your Medicare. And I'm going to tell you that this thing is now front and center on my mind. I will be appearing on multiple locations in the media, in, for example, talk radio and things like that in the coming days. Under Medicare, this first quarter is pretty important. One of the 2 things that is most important is that people can enroll in Part B. It used to be called general election period, right? You can enroll in Part B. The reason I bring this up today is that, as you know, to veterans, to those people who have relied on Veterans Administration, that it is complicated itself, that certain people, if we look at va.gov, and I spoke about this last week, if you look on va.gov and you enter Medicare in here, what you will find is that the VA itself has stated, hey, nothing assures the funding to VA. Right? That nothing. If you go here, this is what it'll say. Here. And in fact, this is one of those locations where a government website is actually making a recommendation. There are not very many, right? IRS doesn't give you tax guidance. IRS.gov doesn't give you tax guidance. You should have a Roth or something like that, or IRA. They don't say that. They tell you what you can do. This is that site which says, yes, we encourage you to sign up for Medicare. And then they go on, and the point here is that funding could change in the future. This is an issue. Maybe. I'm not here to give you that specific guidance, right? I'm just giving you insight on what the VA is saying. I still, my email down there, you can ask me for zero on what I think about your specific situation. You're not going to get a, tailored answer, customized answer here on YouTube Live. Definitely not. Right? I won't have a recording either, which will have that. That would be private. My point here is that you cannot apply for this on April 1. I said March 31st is the important day. That also by implication means that on April 1, which is Tuesday, it will be too late. We are literally days away. And for those of you who are above 65, well above 65, above 66, candidly, right? You may face a late enrollment penalty for under Part B that'll be unavoidable. Crazy people write books all about these types of matters, right? Which is that, hey, you can make the choices here that you want. I understand that, but understand the ripple effects are, as va.gov said, and now if this worries you, that March 31st is an important date. I would absolutely think that would be at least worth your consideration, at least worth people to think through, because thinking through it on April 2nd will not help you. It will not help you. It is that urgent. For federal employees, it is still too soon to tell. As of today, if let's just say, for example, you are a current retiree of the federal government, the rules are not different. Can they change? There are proposals to change. And now you can see why I started with VA, where we know it is true, to FEHB, we don't know if it's true, which makes it, I realize that makes this more unsettling. I realize that. What has happened to my book? I wish I were better at videography, or I'm too busy to make sure every last detail is right? Because I wanted to make this book in front of the lettering. Nope, still behind. Still incompetent videography. Okay. That you'll see what the problem could be. You're 67. You've stayed on FEHB. You've not enrolled in Part B. You now have FEHB because your spouse was 63. You stayed on employee plus one, employee plus family, without taking Part B. There may have been rational reason for it. Now, what is being proposed right now is that they change that you need to be on Part B. And there's rationale for that, which is that the cost of self plus one for people will decline, meaning the federal government's expenditure would decline. There's a rationale here. The problem is that then the 67-year-old retiree would be subject to this late enrollment penalty that is unavoidable. Right? So in other words, what we have today is that certain people have not enrolled in Part B intentionally. Some of those people didn't know that there was going to be a late enrollment penalty. Some of them did know there would be a late enrollment penalty and did it anyway because they said, okay, well, I'm just going to stay on FEHB. That presumed that the FEHB rules stayed the same. Now, this proposal here is that, we may require you to have Part B. And now all of a sudden now this first rule stays in, this first issue now persists. Last point I'm going to make about that is that the precedent exists. On this requirement. Oops. Dyslexic this morning. TRICARE for life. So, the Rolls Royce, if you will, for career military people, thank you so much for your service, is the fact that those people on TRICARE for life are required to have Part B already. So in other words, even though the money comes from different location, which is true, right? VA is not funded the same way as Medicare. It's not. The money comes from different spots. But what I'm saying is here, the idea of having someone paid by any part of or benefits provided by the federal government as a whole, and the requirement to have Part B, the precedent exists, and there it is, that TRICARE for life. By the way, I'm going to formally say, or as I've stated in every edition of Maximize Your Medicare, I find the idea that TRICARE for life would be under threat as close to zero as you can get. I can't tell you 100% that it's going to be no chance, but it's darn close. That's what I would say. I lose zero winks as a result of worrying about our TRICARE for life people that we've discussed with people. No. So, as you can hear, very complicated, and a lot of ramifications, and very time sensitive. Very. It keeps going. For existing Medicare Advantage members, so now you're not part of the federal government. For the rest of Medicare people. Okay, so now, let's just call it 66 million people on Medicare, half on a Medicare Advantage plan. Some of that, a notable amount, on group Medicare Advantage plan, because that's your retiree plan, is a form of Medicare Advantage. That March 31st also represents the time that Medicare Advantage members can cancel or change their plan. March 31st. So if you are a Medicare Advantage plan member and you've enrolled by yourself with a broker, whatever, if you've done so on an independent basis, you have through the end of March to change. You have one time to change. Once. You can change to any other Medicare Advantage plan in your location. This is different than moving, for example, mid-year. Then you do have a different set of rights. I'm just talking about you're in a location, you're staying in that location. You still have that right to change once. There can be reasons to change. They can be very rational. I've already stated this umpteen times over the years. Your network has changed, you didn't realize. Your prescription coverage had changed, you did not realize. There are some extra benefit. Your dental needs are more demanding, and another plan has better dental benefits. It is so competitive in Medicare Advantage that I tell existing clients or prospective clients, people say, Jay, can you help me help a Medicare Advantage plan? In certain locations, it is so competitive that dental and vision can be the tiebreaker. That's how competitive it is. That's not that surprising to me. If you wanted to go, and which is not part of this spreadsheet because most of it was trying to think through how to explain this to you, but this is, going to Medigap is a possibility. But at this point in time, you're going to have to be Mr. Perfect. Meaning that underwriting, and the reason for that is that underwriting, for most of you, is a requirement. You want to go from Medicare Advantage to Medigap, you can do so. I've always told persons that the ideal time is October 15th. But given the scrutiny here on Medicare Advantage as a whole, which I'm not going to address here today, and United Healthcare, etc., which is not alone, I've discussed it in the past, and upcoding and risk adjustment, etc. Those have been discussed ad nauseum by me, not today. I will say this one thing. You should not be receiving phone calls directly. I promise you this with 100% certainty. I'm not calling you to tell you that you can change your plan. I couldn't respond to you. If you ask me, I cannot initiate to you. If you get a phone call over the next days, that is not a lawful exercise. That is not a lawful approach. It doesn't even matter if that representative, the agent of record, is your existing agent of record on your Medicare Advantage plan. They cannot call you up and say, Mr. Smith, do you want to change to a different plan? They can't. How do you shut this stuff down? You get this phone call and you answer it. You can just simply ask the person what's their NPN. And NPN for newcomers is the national producer number. It is the very specific singular number assigned to insurance people. I have an NPN in the text below the video. It's there for you. It's there for you. It's there for you intentionally. Right? I'm not going to mislead you. I'm not going to do anything unlawful. If you have a controversy, there's my NPN. We'll take it up there. Doesn't happen. But my point is, out of transparency, by that same measure, you can then ask someone if you're not certain. Okay, just tell me what your NPN is. Click. They realize that they're not supposed to be calling you, or they give it to you and now they're in some trouble because that's not a lawful activity. That is outside of regulations.